Yo, Doug, Kenny Boucher here, The Long War. Joined tonight by my partners in crime. Oh my God. I just got DM'd right when I started. Turn me hit all this. Close all these windows. It's just a huge bookling. Fuck.
uh, Professional as always.
I just saw that meme. I've seen that one before. It's good.
Yo, Doug, Kenny Boucher here, The Long War. Joined tonight by my partners in crime, Wyatt Turk, and the return of the legendary Mike Haspil. What's up, guys?
Yo, what's going on?
Greetings and felicitations.
Oh yeah, this is that part Rob says some nonsense. But okay, so Rob's not here. Uh Again, all I can do is speculate. I don't have facts. I what did I say happened the last time?
He
I
over
don't.
I don't know. He might have overheated, sunning himself,
I think I
as the
said
lizards do, as
I
his people do.
it's just people too. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go with that, bro. He's in a isolation chamber right now. Some like lizard tech, you know.
The Herpetological Recovery Center.
Mhm.
That's right.
And so, obviously, Mike Haspel's back. Uh, I did my 8-year stream anniversary yesterday, painting some possess models, and I saw a streamer tag pop up, Rogue 428. And then I was like, holy shit, fucking Mike Haspil. Which obviously, we see each other on Facebook and stuff. But you've been a busy man, and we're gonna get to that, in a bit. We're gonna have a old school Haspils Corner. We're gonna talk about 2 seconds of news and bring Haspil in for a Gragnar Dad Gamer segment. We're working title, but first we have a Peabody Award winning segment here. We're gonna roll into the cave and touch nothing but the lamp with Wyatt Turk.
Would you rather have to do an hour of stand up or an MMA fight? 3 rounds.
Ooh.
You get 6 months preparation. If you choose MMA, you are fighting in your weight class versus somebody your same age.
I'm gonna pick stand up.
Bro, that's a good one. You get a 6 months prep. Are there any
Yeah, you get
other requirements? Like, for example, I have to do a full hour stand up, which is
full hour.
like a hour long comedy special.
Yep.
Haspel would actually kill at that. Like, he gave him 6 months to write his comedy special.
It would be controversial, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, but I mean, aren't they all now? Like, it's
All
not
the
like
good comedy is, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is like I can walk away from bombing at a comedy special.
You can,
I might not walk away from a 3-round MMA fight.
but what if I get knocked out in the first round? You're not gonna hit me
I mean,
with
the fight's over.
Oh,
I mean, like you can't throw the fight.
Right,
Okay.
right.
The
You have
genie
to
will
try.
the genie will know.
And
Can't throw it.
go to the banish room, get banished to the shadow realm. So I actually have to fight. I can't like. So if I get clipped, I can't like. And it rocks me a little bit. I can't be like, oh yeah, that like TKO, Doug. I can't.
No, you can't just give up.
Mm.
Ugh. 6 months though. God, I'll be my special. Is this comedy special going to be nationally syndicated?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Netflix.
It's got to come with that whole risk.
Yeah, it'll be a Netflix special.
You tell one bad joke, you're canceled for life.
It's just like you get the best agent of all time. Like the genie just apparates him. He's like, I got you a Netflix deal. You have 6 months to give me an hour.
Yeah.
We're not getting paid for either of these.
No.
No. Yeah.
You said I got to fight against a guy in my weight class.
Your weight class, your age.
And weigh in would be 6 months from now.
Yes.
And then the genie would.
But you would like, just like a normal fight, there would be like, we're fighting in the like heavy middleweight class. Like that would be agreed upon and you get 6 months to train.
Okay.
Like catch weight or something like that. So I can negotiate. Okay. I feel like I would do the MMA fight. I feel like if I had 6 months, first off, sure, it's going to suck and I might get beat up really bad. But I get really good shape, Mike.
Yeah, you would
I
for
get,
sure.
I get hella good shape. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't think too hard about the, scene at the end of Rocky where they're in the hospital, fucking wheelchairs and shit. Like, I'm just like, I'll be jacked, son. Now, is this like, so I'm being paired against a weight class, age contemporary, like pro? Or are we talking like, is it
It'd probably have to be amateur level. But I mean, like amateur level has a pretty wide spectrum.
Yeah,
of
because I think Brock Lesnar's my
experience.
age. Is my age, dude.
Yeah. So it's like to make it like a conceivable choice, right? It's not going to be so like it's not going to be like Chuck Liddell in his prime.
Right,
Like
right.
it can't be anybody that's had a professional fight.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I take the risk just to get jacked. And but I do also get, he gets the magical agent. He gets the best agent in Hollywood. Do I get the best fight camp in the game magically?
Yeah, you'll get like a little like cornerman demon. To help you
I mean,
out.
do I get to go to Greg Jackson and fucking train with him in like, New Mexico? Do I get like a grappling coach? Do I get like nutritionalists?
You'll have like a very high quality caliber coaching staff.
Yeah, because typically you take some of your, your pre-sale or your fight person, the previous fight, you pay for your training camp. So like that, because it costs money.
Nice.
So like if I had that kind of budget, now I think most training camps are only like 10 weeks, like kind of like. So like, but I'd have 6 months to prepare. But I'd say probably I'd only get like professional grade training camp for like the last 10 weeks. Probably be.
It's fair enough.
Yeah,
And
just
oh yeah, Longship Loft ask, can the people leave or are they trapped in the comedy show for an hour?
Oh, they're like emotionally invested in this comedy
Oh
hour.
yeah.
So like if you bomb, like you're gonna really upset them. Like it'll be
Oh
like
yeah.
not at the Apollo, dude. Like they'll tear you to
I'm
shreds.
picking I am picking the comedy special for sure. And I would just start off with the Rorschach right away. You think I'm locked in here with you? You're locked in here with me, and I have an hour. Let's do this. You're about to hear how much the new Star Wars movies suck for an hour. Yeah, I definitely do the comedy special for sure.
Yeah, I honestly think you'd be really good at it. I think you'd be like, because you know how a lot of comedy specials are almost like TED Talks too now. Like
Yeah.
so you'd splice it in. I'd run out of content in like 14 seconds, dude. Like, I would forget to prepare for 6 months. I walk in there and be like, oh yeah, this thing. Fuck. I can't.
Oh yeah. And no F's given is there any rewards for winning the fight or not bombing or getting canceled?
I'll say yeah. Like I can't give you like an exact number because that'll like bias the answer, right? Because it's supposed to be a
Right,
hard
right.
choice no matter what. But like I'd say that like if you win the fight or like your Netflix special is well reviewed, like you will be rewarded with like a commiserate level reward.
Okay. So you can't just go in there, just like you can't throw the fight. You can't just go in there intending to bomb.
Yeah, like you can't
have to,
bomb on
like-
purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to like try. Okay.
Yeah, the genie knows your intent, like, so you can't game this.
Yeah.
But you could parlay your success into more deals with Netflix. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, because I mean, like you have a Netflix special now, and it's going to be on Netflix for the foreseeable future.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't really have a future with the fighting, though. That's the problem.
I mean,
It's kind of a one
it's
and
gonna
done.
be it's gonna be a fight though. So I mean, like you could parlay that because I'm sure the story will be picked up by ESPN. Like 40s Juggalo decides that he's gonna get into the MMA world.
Oh
Like,
heck yeah, man! Sponsorships and all kinds of stuff.
They could probably work something out. You're right. For Loco sponsorship, fuck yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Extends, Yellow Jackets, all the gas station brands. Oh yeah, I'm into this now.
I legit thought, by the way, yesterday when I went to your stream, I was looking to pick up some swag. I legit thought you were selling your stats on your store because you have that one picture
Yeah,
on there.
it
I
looks,
I was dying. I was like, oh my god.
bro, it's wild because like every time I go in there and buy them, they literally make me pull my ID out. Like they don't like like I go in there and buy a Four Loco. The guy looks at me, he's like, "Yeah, you're the right age," and he doesn't care, right? I go in there and I'm like, "I want these." He's like, "What's your ID?" I'm like, "What's in these? What the fuck is in these, man?" Like
Uh,
seems disproportionate, man. Four Loco is definitely worse for me, right? Right? Fuck. Um. So look forward to Mike Haspil's comedy career 6 months from now. So we
Do
don't.
you have a name for your special?
Oh, no fuck, no F's given. It's gotta be. Man, I assume. Mike Haspil style.
yeah, I don't know what I would call it. But no F's given is a pretty good name.
So news wise, Wyatt, what
Yeah.
take us to the Memorial News Desk.
Yeah, let me walk over there. Not too much. We did get the first episode of a new Warhammer Plus short show thing, whatever they're calling them, called The Tithes. The trailer looks pretty tight. Probably worth
Yep.
checking out. Animation looks very nice. And then there's a couple of new bits of info about the Agents of the Imperium stuff. They showed off the Vindicare Assassin data sheet. He looks pretty cool. Um, his new ability is he gets to ignore a lone operative when he shoots at stuff.
Oh, nice.
So it's like he's got dev wounds, heavy ignores cover, precision, um, which is pretty tight. And then probably like the bigger news is that with this book, there's going to be a new points system, at least for this book for right now, where the allied units or the requisitioned units, I think they're called in the book, are going to have different point values for when they're brought in as allies and for when they're standalone units within their like own book.
Oh, that's
Um,
pretty cool.
and yeah, and so like this seems kind of like the first rollout, kind of like the beta tests for something like this, and that could be the secret answer for allied units in 40K moving forward, right? Because we still see a good portion of that, especially in the super factions where it's like, well, I'm going to take like an assassin and like maybe some Imperial Knights or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those at two different points values based on their performance in their own book and as allies seems pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty awesome. Because I could see them being like, "Oh, you want to run like?" I'll talk about Grey Knights because that's what I know. It's like you want to run Armigers or whatever. They're going to cost you more than if you were playing Knights to run them in a
Exactly.
Grey Knight army or something. You
It's
know.
kind of the idea is that like a lot of people use allies to supplement the shortcomings of their book, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
great example right now is Death Guard. Like you basically don't see a winning Death Guard list that doesn't have some war dogs in it, right?
3
Um,
brigands.
yeah. And that is filling a slot that is kind of intentionally left blank for the Death Guard because like codexes need to have strengths and they need to have weaknesses. That's how, you have a fun, interesting game. And so if you're like, well, I can just take 3 war dogs and it shores up the weakness of Death Guard, then like kind of what's the point? So like you probably should
Mm-hmm.
have to pay a premium for doing that if they're going to keep allowing it. So I don't know. This idea seems cool. I hope they do it right.
Yeah, they used to do that back. I don't remember which edition, but they used to do that with attacks, where you had to take an HQ or something from that other decks, and it was essentially a tax that you had to pay to unlock those units.
Oh yeah, you know what? They did have in multiple examples, not just with these allies. They did actually do that. Yeah, dude, I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it actually all started with the Army of Death, the 3rd edition, where it was just this is the Millennials Codex, but 25% more expensive.
Hmm.
Like the first time we saw something like that. That's wild. So I'm excited. I mean, I imagine Mike is pretty excited because historically, Inquisition, Agents of Imperium,
Yeah.
all that shit's
Yeah.
it's been your jam.
Yep. I already pre-ordered, so I don't know when it comes out. They'll just call me. And I'll go get
This
it.
weekend.
Oh, there we go.
I think I remember.
I
Or
haven't
actually, it
sold.
might go on pre-order this weekend. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I haven't sold my sisters, my old sisters, my metal ones. I still
Sisters are
have those.
cracked right now, dude.
Well, I don't have any of the new units. That's the thing. I got rid
think
of
other
all my
than-
new stuff.
Trying to think. I think only like Paragon warsuits and whatever that new tank is called. That's kind of like the only new stuff they have.
Yeah.
Everything else is still like same old stuff.
Same old stuff, new model. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
new
characters.
model.
It's like Morgan Vol, Paragon warsuits, the I don't know, the cluster of ladies. I don't know.
I like that. That's what it's called. The cluster of
the,
ladies.
yeah, the gaggle of ladies.
The procession,
the
of
gaggle of
St.
gals.
Catherine or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
dude, like the Golden Girls. Yeah, that one's in a lot of lists.
Yeah, I just realized that like I would never have time to get to them, so I liquidated all my sisters. I kept all my metal ones, all the old ones I
I
had.
see. Which will play into our segment with you. What was the name of that game store that was like in downtown Colorado Springs that we would go to sometimes?
Complete Games and Hobbies.
Yeah, that's right. When they went out of business, unfortunately, I think I went down and bought their entire GW paint rack.
Yeah, you did. You did. Like you bought the actual rack,
The physical rack. I took it to
the
my
physical
house
paint
with
rack.
all their paints on it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I think we were playing a tournament back there back in the day, real long time ago. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
and you had like a bunch of Inquisitor chimeras and henchmen. Uh, you'd airbrush them up,
Yeah, yeah.
and that must have been 2009.
That was like the first time I used an airbrush on GW stuff, and it had never occurred to me for whatever reason. I used airbrush on replica props and on traditional models all the time, and it never occurred to me to just be like, hey, I need to camo up these chimeras real quick. Oh, let me just use an airbrush. And it was like, oh.
Yeah, and I had an airbrush in 40K models, and I saw Mike's, and I was like, damn, I've been thinking about this, bro. This is sick. And you were showing me them. Do you also remember we were at that same tournament? In the back was a bunch of car club guys.
Yeah,
remember?
car club guys that were airbrushing.
All of them had fucking Awada eclipses and CO2 tanks.
Yeah.
No, not compressors, right? Like, so that day, that was a big day in my mind for like, yeah, I gotta pull a trigger on this.
Yeah. It was definitely a game changer day.
Yes. That also, you know what the best part of that day was that was 4th edition, and we were playing 1,500 points, and I brought these orcs where I had like death copters, some battle wagons, and bike squads, and it was like a rushdown list with a scouting and death copter unit with the buzzsaws and everything, and battle wagon would get, or not a battle wagon, but like a truck with mega knives. Really aggressive 1,500 point list, and I played against our good old friend Mike Tester.
Yeah.
I think it was my first interaction with him, and he's playing his janky old 2nd edition Eldar jank. And I win the roll to go first, scouted up, charged this whole army on turn 1 with my Death Copter mob, locked them in, couldn't do anything. Trucks all came out, everyone got out of the trucks, charged them. Turn 2, he's like, this bullshit, I realized it was this kind of tournament. So it wasn't until later, after I played that guy multiple times, and know how he's, you know, he is absolutely the guy who's always trying to win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is like, he's the kind of guy in the gaming club that's like, everyone's like, I gotta play this guy with his busted Eldar list, you know. And so I was just like, oh, I'm kind of new here. All right, I'll play this guy, and he rage quits on me.
Yeah.
So all of that happened in the same day, Mike.
I don't remember that. I remember that was the era of like Tim Baptist having some really broken Gene Stealer army where he would like outflank and charge, and then they could charge from the assault.
Yeah, I think it was
So
that.
he
I
would
think it
like,
was the original Gene Stealer cult, like side rules.
yeah, it was nuts. I had to play against that a couple of times, and it would just suck.
Or like the seeding swarm or some shit like that.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a swarm. It was like a seeding swarm. He had like a brood lord as his HQ, and
Well,
everything else was
this
his
is
Gene
pre
Stealer.
Broodlord. It's something else. It was like
Oh,
it's
okay.
like fourth edition nonsense.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, memories, dude. Whew.
that was a while back.
Yep. Yeah, we were looking at some pictures from the. I told you I had to go back like 536 weeks to find find that picture of you and me chilling in your beats lab with, in front of the proton pack.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that was wild. And then Mike told me he's like, "Oh, I bought a second one."
Yep.
So
Yeah, I
classic.
couldn't pass it up. It was too good a deal.
So let's do a classic thing, right? So we got all the news out of the way in record time. Thank you, Wyatt, for leading us in this segment at the Memorial News Desk. Professionalism is astounding. But let's do a Haspils Corner. We used to do this all the time. So, pop culture, anything. Are there any new movies that you may have gone and seen recently?
Yeah, I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and I really can't talk about it because so much of that movie is depends on the surprise, on the cameos. That is a movie where the spoilers will absolutely ruin it for you.
Yeah. As much as I want to gush about it too, like you just
Yeah,
can't.
Man, my
you
brother
just
called
can't.
me the other day and he was like, "Can I spoil Deadpool Wolverine for you? Because I know you don't care about spoil."
Oh,
Because he knows I traditionally don't care about spoilers, as you guys know. Like I'm like, "Yeah, tell me everything. I don't fucking care." But I was like, "I kind of care. Don't tell me."
yeah. The one piece of advice I would give people is try to go see it in a packed theater. I went to go see it at like a noon matinee show, and there were like 6 people in the theater. And when I go see a movie alone like that, and something funny happens, I might chuckle. I might be like, "Oh, okay, that was kind of funny." But in Deadpool, I was belly laughing to the point that I missed like the next 30 seconds to a minute of dialogue because I was laughing so hard. I was just like, "Wow." Um, so and what's crazy is I don't think it's the best Deadpool movie. I think I think it's the third. You know what I mean? As far as the Deadpool movies go, but as far as the MCU goes, I think it might be my third favorite movie in the MCU.
So tight.
So,
Um,
so that is a big statement.
yeah.
So what's your top three MCU movies?
Number one's Winter Soldier. That's easy pick for me. Number two is Infinity War. Just because they that was like the culmination of 22 movies or something that they all brought together.
Nothing else is. No one's ever achieved that in cinema.
Yeah,
That's
and I think the reason Endgame is not up there Endgame would be fourth, right? But the reason I think Deadpool beats Endgame is because Endgame got very lazy, and they made some, I would say, storytelling shortcuts, not really mistakes, but like they kind of got lazy with it. And it was just like after some of the setup that they did in Infinity War to cut corners for some cheap jokes in Endgame, I was like, you kind of lessened
well,
it.
it's still
It was
like you
still
said,
really
but
good.
you still like would have been number four. Like,
Yeah, it's like it's still awesome. It's just I can nitpick on it. But Deadpool for me, and I think what I said like when I was talking to people about it, it's the last of the Gen X superhero movies is Deadpool and Wolverine. That, and for me it's an off ramp. So from here on out, and the reason I call it that is like a lot of folks feel obligated, when you've seen a franchise come through as long as it has, like Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever. Um, you feel obligated to go see the next thing, you know what I mean? The next,
mhm.
and Disney has been really coasting on that, I think. It's been unearned since probably I would say 2018. They've been coasting on a lot of stuff where their content is just not good. Um, but because people have that obligation, they'll watch the next Star Wars show, or they'll watch the next Marvel show, or whatever. And Deadpool and Wolverine not only acknowledged that Marvel at least knows that their shit has stunk for the last 4 years, and they know it, and they're going to try to course correct. But also the way Deadpool and Wolverine kind of closed up, it was, like I said, an off ramp. I'm like, okay, you guys want to go tell new stories and chase new audiences? That's what you have to do to stay relevant.
No, you actually make a
be
good point on that.
business.
If you go back, if you think of use Star Trek and Star Wars as analogies, right? Like
Mhm.
straight up, I mean, it's contemporary to the culture of every era
Right.
as it is being produced, and a lot of what's being discussed is like, as you know, like when you are as a storyteller, there's a point to every story. Like you're not just telling a story about mummies and vampires. Like you're telling another story, and that's how you get me to hear
Right.
maybe some hard shit I wouldn't normally let someone tell me, but because I'm suspending disbelief already in the mummy vampire story, I'm hearing some contemporary
Right.
commentary about my life, my world that I live in this exact second for maybe 20 years, this window, right? That makes a lot of sense. And so like
Yeah.
I've also felt that like superhero movies are essentially were dead to me after pretty much after Endgame, with a little revitalization spike with the Loki series.
Yeah, they touched on, they hit a couple of things, but it's like one of the things I always talk about when I do like panels at writer stuff is you've got to put the pill in the cheese, like, or the dog won't eat it.
That's the best way to say it. Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, they have not been doing that. And they've been coasting on just
Yeah, you're right. They're not putting the. Oh my God, you just nailed it.
Yeah.
Because here's a great example. Remember Luke Cage? We love that.
Right.
Right. I remember talking to another writer about a scene that bothered me in Luke Cage, and obviously season 1 Luke Cage, there's a lot of racial commentary happening.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. That's a kind of big fucking part of the movie, and I thought it was weird that he's getting arrested, right? Like chopped up shit. They're arresting him.
Right. Right.
And it's like someone made sure that one of the cops that was putting handcuffs on him in where they live was black too.
Mhm.
It's like I was like, that's kind of, I wouldn't expect that imagery. Like, what's that like? Because I understand they're trying to tell me one story, and why are they making sure that they're diversifying like the cops as they're cuffing them? And then the storyteller I was talking to was like, that's not for you. That's why.
Yeah.
That's the pill for other people to swallow. Because like
Right.
who aren't quite seeing it yet, and I was like, oh shit. And then I started seeing that in all sorts of movies. But then, as you said, Disney does it a lot. It's like they don't put that, they don't hide the pill.
No.
Like
And they started what they started doing, and this actually it goes back to probably 2016 is when I really started noticing it. They think that the messaging is the story. And it's not.
Mhm.
And then because of stuff that happened in 2016, namely the Ghostbusters 2016 movie,
Mhm.
they centered on that whole, okay, we can kind of beat people into liking our movie. And that became, well, now there's a whole term about it called fan baiting and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, I look at it a little bit differently. I'm like, okay, you guys are chasing a new audience, and I'm not the target audience anymore, which is fine. That happens, right? But it's like, don't blame me for not watching your stuff anymore. And that's what I really liked about Deadpool and Wolverine is it was the last of the Gen X superhero movies. It was a great send off, and it's like I can walk away happy on a high note.
Yeah.
And if they come out with some new, movie that I want to see, then I can go see it. But I'm not obligated to
Yeah,
watch.
you can get
every
back. You can
bit
get
of
back on
content.
the bus anytime you want.
Right.
But yeah, breaking the
But-
cycle is important, because how many times have you read a book series and just kept fucking reading it even though you thought it sucked for the last 5 books? You know what I mean? Bro,
George R. R. Martin has made a living off of
yeah,
that.
fucking Wyatt is one of my favorite people because Wyatt won't do that. He'll just bail on the series. He'll be like, "Fuck this."
Yeah. As much as I might have liked it beforehand, if I'm like, this is not tight.
It's going
like,
nowhere.
I mean, He Who Fights Monsters is probably the best example. Is like we were so
So,
deep,
yeah.
so emotionally invested in that book series, and then all it took was like one kind of stinker, like, 35 hours of my time. And I was like, I'm done.
Well,
Yeah.
you gave the next book a try, and you said I need this to happen in that book, and it didn't.
Mm.
And then you walked away from it to come back around. And Wyatt froze for anyone who's listening to the podcast the way it works. So I'm assuming he's gonna drop and come back in a second. But yeah, I'm actually listening to He Who Fights Monsters right now because I can't stop listening to it.
Yeah.
But because it's my shit, and I mean, and I as for audiobook, I will continue to listen even if I think the story is gone downhill. But that's a different subject than the messaging is not the story, like you said, right? Like this, and so they're not doing any messaging nonsense. They're just repeating beats now. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Right. Well,
it's just background entertainment now.
and this is more meta than, but perhaps it's suitable talking about Deadpool and Wolverine that it's meta. But one of the things I saw in that movie, and there's not a spoiler, it's a meta kind of just, is that Marvel knows they screwed up and they're trying to fix it, as opposed to Lucasfilm that's just quadrupling down on stuff that doesn't work.
You know, I like that. Like I like that. I'm super excited to see Deadpool. I haven't been excited to see a superhero movie in years, bro. Like years, because it's like it's all. Where do we go from here? Like like you just talked about Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame. It's like okay, the story has been told, son. Like, and so we need new stories. And then they hit me with the Loki series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just side tangent on Haspils Corner, we haven't talked about Loki, but is it not Doctor Who in the MCU? Isn't that
well, I haven't seen season 2, but season one was pretty much.
I felt like it was like Doctor Who
in
the MCU. I was like, this slaps so hard. I was all in, dude. My parents' new cat they got a year ago. They named it Loki because they were obsessed with the show.
The only thing I didn't like about the show, and this is my fault, is that when it's called Loki, I assumed it was Tom Hiddleston, and it's not. So that recontextualized the series for me, because I was watching it going, okay, this is the Loki that just took over Manhattan, that just fought the Avengers. He is at his peak, essentially, as peak bad guy, Loki, right? And a security guard can punch him in the face and just take him out. And he has no powers. And then about halfway through the show, at some point, they were in real trouble and a skyscraper was falling on him. And he just moved the skyscraper. So he still had all of his powers. So I was just like, oh, he's playing like the long game.
And when he's in the facility, the TVA, he can't use his powers. They have an inhibitor.
Right.
So, but that's why it's a big deal to let him off.
But the series isn't about him at all.
Yeah.
It's about her.
It's about her.
So that didn't really gel with me until like episode 5 or something. I was like, it's called Loki, but it's not about Tom Hiddleston.
You gotta watch season 2, man. You gotta finish the story.
I don't have Disney Plus, and I'm not going to get it. So
should read the synopsis or
that's I read the synopsis before I did, because I didn't want to ruin season 1 for me because it was so good. Just like this whole conversation, I got off the bus. I'm just like, it was so good, I don't need another season. But then especially with Kane the Conqueror imploding and all that stuff, I was like, well, fuck it, this is it. And then I read all the synopsis. I was like, no, it's tight. I'm gonna watch this. So a lot of times I spoil things for myself just to know if I'm gonna invest. You know what I mean, in it. But not Deadpool.
Yeah, honestly, I think they kind of lucked out with when it comes to Loki and the Kang storyline, because it's like only very tangentially related to that. And so the fact that he's like not going to be a major player in the MCU moving forward is fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a blessing in disguise for them, honestly, because like I read almost every Marvel book ever made, and Fantastic Four was one of my favorites. I mean, everything, right? And like Kang is tight, like, but if you're my age, like that wasn't groundbreaking.
He's
like,
no Dr. Doom, dude.
That wasn't like the fucking villain, you know what I mean? And I realized that like because like it's basically Apocalypse and fucking Thanos. These are the two guys, right? You get the X-Men bad guy and you got the Avengers bad guy, and it's like, well, all the X-Men movies kind of got trashed, right? And their jaunt with Apocalypse was straight trash, you know, and so that died. So they go with Kang. I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna be tight, but the way they set it up with He Who Remains and everything, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Mhm.
This is mysterious. I like it, you know. But I'm glad they're going other places, man. And my only spoiler I know is like because I go on YouTube and
Right.
I saw Channing Tatum as Gambit still, like a still frame. I was like, is that fucking real? Because I remember he was gonna play Gambit years ago, or he was campaigning to play Gambit, and I was like, bro, I must see this movie immediately. It's like, so I'm hoping to see it this weekend because Gambit's
definitely.
that's my favorite X-Men all time.
And like I said, I would recommend. I would. That's a movie to see with a crowd, like because the laughter is going to be amplified. The crowd reactions
The
are going to
energy,
be
yeah.
amplified.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it with like 6 people in the theater, and we were hollering.
Bro, you and me went and saw the Phantom Menace on IMAX opening night. That shit was hype. The shit was hype. Have you seen the memes where it's like, I saw this guy did a video where he was like trying to explain Star Wars to his girlfriend, and it's like, okay, so the boomers made Star Wars, and then he's just trying to give you the chronological order, right? And then he keeps going generationally. He's like, then we got the Phantom Menace, and it sucked really bad. Everyone hated it, and then this, but then we got to kind of went back to Phantom Menace, and we're like, actually, the movie kind of tight. Like, you know, and so now we went back and realized how good that movie really was, and I was like, bro, there's not a better Jedi fucking fight scene.
Yeah.
Like, what's the name of that fight scene?
Against Darth Maul.
Yeah, where they're fight, like there's like a soundtrack and everything.
Oh, the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, that. It's the hypest fucking beatdown of all time, dude. Like, it's like, damn.
And I will admit that when I first saw that movie, I had forgotten. I had checked out of the movie
Because Jar Jar Binks pissed you off.
It wasn't just that.
Oh, and Kid Anakin sucks.
Checked out of the movie. I just didn't care. And then when the doors opened and Darth Maul was there, I literally was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. Like this might get good. And then it was awesome. So it was just like, oh, that was worth seeing the whole movie right there. That was awesome.
Did you see that did you see that other meme where it's like Darth Maul talking to Obi-Wan?
Vader?
To Vader, and he's talking about the high ground, and he's like, tell me about this flying Jedi that, like, what's his name? Like, because that was his tech.
Yeah, because he's like, he was unbeatable. He
kept jumping around.
Head.
That's impossible. You can't jump and fight.
Yeah, and he's like, I had the high ground. I should have won, and he just like came out and took me out. And Vader's like, what's this guy's name? And he's like,
tell me about this mythical, non-existent flying
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Jumping,
Vader's just like
this bullshit.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I loved the signaling that it sent to. I think that was a movie made for the fans by fans, by people who like still cared instead of. I think part of the problem that's going on with and it's not just Disney, it's everything right now, is instead of telling stories, they're making content. And sometimes it's good, right? But when I look at stuff that's good, it tends to predate 2016. I think something happened in 2016. And it's like stuff like The Boys or Invincible, right? You're like, well, that's new. And it's not really. That predates 2016. It's based on stuff that's before.
No, it's like what you said. Like this quote comes from this podcast. I don't know who credited it to, but it was like, when the creator doesn't respect the source content,
right?
That's always going to lead to problems, and we get a lot of directors doing that. Like directors like, oh, I signed up for Star Wars. This is going to be hype, but doesn't respect the source material, just the original content.
Right.
Like, so
and they was joking earlier that our universe lost its anchor being. And it was Harambe was our anchor being.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Damn.
And now we're just like screwed. And Kara Quinn's asking, so Ryan Reynolds gets full credit? I would say probably for this movie, yeah.
He campaigned a lot for that, dude. Like
But there's certain things that you see, and Deadpool calls it out. These aren't spoilers. I mean, you see Wolverine in his comic accurate costume. And Deadpool says, it took us 20 years to do this. And you're like, yeah, because idiots like Bryan Singer did not read the comic, would not allow comics on the set. So when you see the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, that's why they're wearing black leather. Is he had zero respect for the source material.
There's some other reasons too, but we won't get into those.
Yeah. But yes.
Bryan Singer sucks for a lot of reasons.
Yes, he does. But that was like a whole thing. And it's like, and you go to some modern things like the new Halo series and you hear the showrunners. I didn't even bother watching an episode because I heard the showrunners say, well, we didn't play any of the games because we didn't want it to affect us. I'm like, bro, you are adapting.
That's where all the story is, though. That's like
you're adapting one of the best loved video games ever. And then you're telling people that you didn't bother to play because you didn't want it to like color your opinion of. I'm like, you shouldn't be working on this. It's like, I don't know.
I think all their research was like the novels around the Halo universe.
Something like that.
I'm with you on that one.
You tried to give it a chance.
I gave it so many. I didn't even finish the second season because I was like, this is awful. Which sucks because like there were people that really cared. It's just none of it was decision making. It was like the costumers really cared, the effects team really cared, like the soundtrack people really cared. I mean, I think the actors really cared too. Like what's the guy's name?
I don't know.
I'm so bad with actor names, but like the main guy who's playing Master Chief, like I think he really cared, but also was a little like flippant with his opinion about putting the helmet on or putting the helmet off. That's why people got mad at him. But yeah, that one was pretty sad for me.
Yeah, there's an ODST commercial that I rewatch at least once a month because it just reminds me how much you can do with a story in like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. And then like Neil Blomkamp, right?
Oh,
he directed a couple of commercials that were fucking sick.
The whole Believe campaign with the miniature set in the old war museum. Dude, literally, every couple of years I go find and watch every single one of those, like in a
nostalgia tingles just thinking.
Dude, I got chills just thinking about that fucking thing, dude.
Yeah, the ODST commercial I'm talking about starts with a kid at a funeral, and they're folding the ODST,
and they're playing some like they're playing some kind of like almost like sci-fi alien sounding like
it's a Polish, it's like Polish or Hungarian or something.
All the actors were Polish too. I think that's where they got all their talent.
But it's super dope, and it's like 2 minutes long, and it's a better story than. And I don't want to get too like I was telling you guys before we started recording. I recorded like a Top Gun QFD podcast about Top Gun Maverick, and then after that, I had like ended it saying that the next one I was going to do was going to be kind of depressing, and I recorded probably 4 hours of content, and I didn't want to put it out because it was really depressing and really dark, and I just was like, I don't want to. That's not my podcast. Not about negativity. I don't want all that stuff in there. But one of the things I will say is just like watch current content and then let's go back to anything that came out before 2016, and you can see a concerted drop in quality.
Dr. D in chat was asking, is that when they fired that Super Collider up, 2016?
Oh, I don't know.
Because we could just be an alternate reality.
Yeah. Well, the simulation has gone off the rails.
Yeah. I mean, I still think there's some good stuff, but it's definitely fewer and far between.
Yeah.
Right. Like somebody in the chat brought up Shogun, which I thought was phenomenal. And I think they're gonna do more of it. I don't think it's done.
Oh, good.
Well, that one was great.
But again, that's based in something from the 70s.
On Shogun from the 70s.
I'd say probably like a good point that meets your criteria is the stuff that Taylor Sheridan has been putting out. So like I don't remember if Yellowstone started before 2016. I don't think it did.
No, it probably did.
Yellowstone is fantastic. Its two spinoffs are, I think, way better. 18 20
The one with
1897.
Harrison Ford
Well, that's 1923. The one that has Tim McGraw, and it's literally they're doing the Oregon Trail. It's literally what they're doing. Um because it's like post Civil War. I think it's 1890,
oh, okay.
1887. Sorry. Yeah, 1887, post Civil War. Tim McGraw is in it. His uh
Chat
gosh,
saying 1883
1883. Gosh, I'm so
and
bad
then
right now.
1923.
1923 is the one with Harrison Ford. Both of those are, in my opinion, I think better.
Better. Okay.
Mayor of Kingstown is fantastic. If you like your gritty city crime drama type stuff. And I was not the biggest fan of what was it, like Tulsa Tulsa King?
Tulsa King. Yeah.
Um, but everybody I've talked to that's seen that show, they really, really, I don't think it was a bad show. It
hmm
wasn't as interesting to me personally as Mayor of Kingstown or the Yellowstone stuff, but I still think it was a great show. Like Stallone is really good in it. Like the mafia stuff is cool.
hmm I've been rewatching a lot of old stuff, so I haven't seen any of this new stuff. But now that you've given Yellowstone
Dude, I think
the
you need
thumbs
to
up.
watch 1883. If you watch nothing else, watch
Mhm.
1883 because it is so phenomenally good.
Yeah, because I've been rewatching like The Sopranos and stuff like that. You
Like,
know what
I
I
know you
mean?
don't like your subscription services. Like, if the only way you can watch it is to like just purchase it outright, it's literally just worth owning. It's like
Well, isn't
Lonesome Dove.
Yellowstone on like
It's on
Netflix?
Amazon.
Or
You can
it's on Amazon. Okay, yeah.
I
Well,
know
I
that
can just get it.
if you don't have Paramount, you can just like purchase each season, which is what I did for
Yeah,
a
that's
while.
fine. Yeah.
But 1883, I think, is the best jumping in point.
Because I've been doing old guy stuff. So I'm rewatching like Matlock. I'm kidding.
Yeah, dude.
But I am rewatching Justified and The Sopranos and
I
stuff
did a
like that.
rewatch of Justified not too long ago.
Yeah.
That's what I was watching when I was in the hospital.
And I
Um,
got to dive into Breaking Bad again, but I started Better Call Saul, and that's phenomenal. It's so good. Um, so and we've strayed so far from 40K now.
But we didn't even start off. This is Haspils Corner. So what we'll do is we'll take a commercial break here in a second. And we'll come back to our other segment. And this is the commercial, and I just wanted to remind myself to uh, pimp out BolterCon 2024. So before we jump into our commercial break, you guys, White, remember I went to Ohio the other week or last
yeah.
month? So I went to the Bolters at Dawn crew up in Cincinnati, Mike, and did a IRL painting class. Right now, post COVID, getting back to that swing. Great gaming club out in Cincinnati. It's above a brewery. The entire model is just based on like club memberships. It's so nice, and they do a convention every year. And I've been since COVID started. I've been doing video paint judging for them.
Oh,
Like they take all these high quality photos, put them in a drive, and I pick out winners and do a little video for them to play for the announcements. And so I might actually go this year because I was so impressed by their game club when they paid me my fees to go do my job, and I was just so impressed. So BolterCon 2024, November 14th through the 17th. They're gonna have a 40K, 50 round event, and an Age of Sigmar 25 or 20 60 player event and a 24 player event. They're also gonna have 1 day events, Blood Bowl, Horus Heresy, and Old Worlds. Last year they had about 100 players show up and
Man,
finish.
wow,
I
nice.
could do that. I could go to that. I just checked the calendar.
Yeah,
Um,
it's at a Holiday Inn, which is where I stayed actually when I was up there, and it's a
hmm
pretty nice little convention center.
classy
Holiday Inn.
one.
It's solid. It's in where they are in outskirts in Cincinnati. It's pretty chill spot. Lots of options. I've never been to Cincinnati. I was like actually really impressed by it. Like
I've been a couple of times.
Ohio's not garbage. It turns out like if you go to Cincinnati.
Yeah. I don't
Uh,
know. I kind of want to go. We should go to that.
yeah, I'm kind of
Hang out with Matt Beasy, dude.
dude, Matt Beasy would go. And so they had 100 people sign up last year. So this is like a con that really like they don't do a lot of promoting. It's a lot of grassroots. But 100 people showing up last year. try to get the word out. BolterCon 2024. They got a Discord. I think you can find them. They have a website, BolterCon. It's probably like they got all these QR codes. It's boltercon.com. So I love these guys. I can totally, uh, you know, tell. I mean, you can rest assured that my assessment of these guys is totally accurate and unbiased. Like I went to their facility, stayed at that hotel. I already know like everything is tight. It's on the up and up. Worth going if you want to, not a mega con to go to, you know what I'm saying? Like not thousands of people, but just low hundreds of people and experience 40K in a more intimate setting, but still at a con in a con way. Check it out. So let's do our commercial break and we'll come back to our Gamer Dad segment. And we're back. So, like Mike Haspil, we got him all night. So we're going to keep pumping him full of questions and make him answer us. So a lot has happened since you were last on the podcast. You stepped away from the podcast because you're writing. You're writing it. I mean, you still write. I think it's still your job to write, but you're a novelist doing stuff for the Black Library, and a lot of people on Twitch have been asking like how that's going, asking about the new, when are we getting more graveyard shift, so I feel like just maybe talk about that at the beginning so that people's questions get
the
answered.
reason I stepped away was and the easiest analogy I could say was that I knew at the time I was privy to stuff that was going on that that I knew when we would say stuff that was wrong, and I almost and I'd signed some NDAs and stuff, and I almost kind of violated that. And it was like, without getting into too specifics, imagine if you knew like 2 years ago or whatever that Hugh Jackman was going to play Wolverine again in a Deadpool movie, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody said, "Oh, they're not making another Deadpool movie," and you were like, "Oh, but," and you knew that, and you can't say anything, right? And I was just like, the nature of our podcast here being so freeform and just like we're having a conversation and whatnot, I was like, I was taking a big risk. So that's kind of why I stepped away. I was like, I don't want to blow it. Turns out things don't always work out the way you want them to. I was doing really well at Black Library. I wrote 3 short stories for them. But only 2 ever were published. One about Lord Commander Eidolon called Amor Fati, which I'm very proud of. And then another one that I actually like better, called To the Last, which was a space battle one. And then I wrote a third story that's a Necromundus story, but that never got published.
Oh, is that the one that I read?
You may have read it, yeah.
It was like about, I think I remember that one. That was cool.
Yeah. And then I wrote the season 8 battle pass for World of Tanks, which was
dude, I remember when that came out. Yeah,
which was really, really cool. And then they offered me an incredible opportunity that I really couldn't say no to. And unfortunately, I had to take that, and that caused me, I won't say to burn bridges with people, but to pass up on other opportunities that I could have taken at the time. But this was so big that this was going to be my escape hatch, right? It's like, I'm going to write this for Black Library. It's going to be gigantic, and I can quit my day job, and all I got to do is like write one Black Library book a year, and then I can pay my bills with that, and then I can write all the other stuff that I want. And unfortunately, that kind of blew up in my face. So in Black Library's defense, they didn't like what I had put out, and they killed the project. And at the time, it was so devastating. I was depressed. I didn't do anything for a year. But looking back on it now, I would rather they kill the project than to have it come out and I be known as the guy who wrote this piece of shit.
Oh my God.
Do you see what I mean?
What a critically the accountability you just threw on yourself is jarring in this day and age. Like,
So
are you allowed to say anything about it, or is that still under wraps?
it's still under wraps.
Oh.
And so in a couple of years, I'll probably say what it was for. But I haven't even had the courage to go back and reread what I wrote. I have let some other friends of mine read it that are into 40K, and they thought it was fine. But I haven't had the courage to even look at it again. So I was just kind of like, okay. But I'm like, if this would have come out and people would have thought, like, we all know there are other writers out there that have created stuff for Black Library,
that we
and
talk.
it might not be
Yeah.
the best.
You don't want to be on that list of names.
I don't want to be on that list of names, right? So I'm like, if they didn't like it to the point that they felt that it was better off killing the project than putting it out, then as the caretakers of the IP, that's their call, right? And I have to respect that.
Mm.
So that's what happened there. It really devastated me. Like I said, for a year, I didn't write anything, and at all. I couldn't even write. And then I was just like, okay, we can get back into this. And I got another tie-in opportunity, which was to write for the Green Hornet. So I was able to write a story for the Green Hornet. And when I reread that the other day, because we're getting ready to launch the Kickstarter and everything, so you guys will see stuff coming out. But when I reread that, I was like, oh, there's a little dark, a little spicy. um, so that's kind of fun. And I'm trying to write stuff now, going back to the Graveyard Shift universe. I have a book that I'm probably going to indie publish. That's called Reflex Forger, and it's like a novella with other short stories attached to it, but it's all characters that you guys know, mostly Alex and Marcus. And then I do have a story about Runa in there, pre Graveyard Shift, and a story about Marcus in the Holy Roman Empire, and a story about Alex when he gets discovered in 1837. So there's all these different stories that this is stuff that I have binders full of.
Yeah, this is your show Bible, man. Like, you've had this for years.
Yeah,
like,
I've had this for a ton of time, and I'm just like, well, it's just sitting here, and let me just like write it up as a short story, and then I can put it in this kind of fiction collection. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm working on a fantasy story, and trying to get some more IP work out there, which I can't talk about right now.
bro,
but trying to do that, and hopefully it'll work.
bro, that's wild
Hopefully it'll
though.
work out.
So a lot of people, like they said, a lot of people ask about you, where you're at, what you've been up to, and so I think a lot of people who are going to hear this podcast on their way to work tomorrow are going to probably start DMing you. So
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So get ready for that. But I'm glad you're back in the saddle. I can relate to, as an artist, that feeling of you don't even want to do your art anymore, and even when you
Yeah.
start wanting to do it again, and you physically can't make yourself do it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's bad, because I'm like we're no strangers to like me shitting on something, right? Like just completely going, this movie sucks, and here's why.
Mhm.
So being on the receiving end of that was not good, right? It was just like, okay, so this is like 40K. It's my bread and butter. I should be able to write this in my sleep, right? And then having them like tear me a new one.
Oh,
Bro,
so this is like their feedback. They're just like ripping on it bad.
Yeah.
Damn, it's rough.
And it was brutal.
it's kind of,
like,
I was actually going to say, because, when we started talking about pop culture tonight, and you have honestly a different way of describing what you don't like about movies today than you did the last time you were on this show.
yeah.
When you're talking about the exit ramp, when you're talking about generations, and you're talking about like everything you're talking about, content or messaging isn't story, you have a completely different way of framing your feelings about modern storytelling today. And I imagine that the trauma you suffered at the hands of
Yeah.
like probably had something to do with that. And so I bet you're gonna bounce back with some. I mean, you're already doing IP work. You got this Green Hornet thing. I can't wait to see a darker Green Hornet. Like that's
Yeah.
gonna be beyond hype. So, uh, awesome. For a little context, anybody out there, Black Arbor was Haspil's dream job. Like
It was.
that was when he started his thing. Like I mentioned earlier, like you're my oldest friendship that I have, like adult friendship, where like as a grown man meeting another grown man and being friends with them, not someone you just went to school with, that you were forced to be in the same room with, and you're like, I guess we're friends. Me and Haspil met when I moved to Colorado in like 2004 at Gamers Haven. And I've been friends with this. Every one of these stories he just told you about is going to be in his anthology. I know everything about all those stories. He has said them to me out loud on long drives to Adepticon for 10 years. Like I know everything. I'm really personally really excited about the discovery of the 1830 setting
Oh yeah.
on the
Oh,
boat.
yeah.
Sorry, the boat.
Yep. That's
Like,
a really good story.
so like I'm, without, I've been hearing about that for years, dude. You know what I mean? But I want to say though, like failures aside, right? Like that shit happens. Things are you can't control. You can only control the things you can, right?
Right.
And
That's
so
it.
taking personal accountability for things that you can do better, I think is always good for artists. But simultaneously, hats off to you. Like everybody listening at home, driving to work again. Haspil he did it.
Yeah.
He's a published Black Library author. He fucking did it. Now the shape of what that dream took wasn't I'm a full-time writer. I'm a made man now. It didn't take that shape, fine, but you did it. You fucking took your favorite IP, and you were published by them. You're also published by Tor, one of our
Yep.
So though life keeps throwing shit at you, you might take a year sabbatical, but now you're back again. You're already fucking back again. It's not that bad. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty fucking impressive, dude. You're one of the most impressive dudes I know when it comes to what like your history story or how you've gotten to this moment and how much shit you got your hands in at any given time.
Mm. Yep.
So
let me tell you, the temptation's real because, like, especially because of like Helldivers too. It's like I should be
man.
writing
But there's
one more
democracy
drop.
to spread, dude. Like,
Yeah, democracy's not going to spread itself. One more drop.
yeah, bro. What are we doing?
bro. So let's talk about 40K a little bit. So Mike Haspil has been playing Warhammer 40K longer than I have. You know what I mean? Like he's been in this like I like since the beginning.
Yeah, and famously, I didn't know I was playing Warhammer 40K.
Mm-hmm. Famous story on this podcast, and he won Tacticon and Genghis Con. These are the two big local cons of the era when we were living in Colorado. He is, he's won multiple tournaments, multiple painting awards. Like he was known for having the sickest display and winning games. Like it's not so. This guy comes from a competitive route in this hobby, and so. What has your life been like since the last time we were on the podcast? Like you've been playing, are you caught up? Like where you at?
Yeah, so I've been playing, but right now I'm only playing my Grey Knights because I have a personal rule where, and I might have to break it, but my personal rule is I don't play with unpainted stuff.
My rule as well.
Yeah, so I have to. That's what gets me to paint. Otherwise, I would just be like, oh, this is good enough. I can just play the game. You know what I mean? So TTS lets me do that, scratch that itch, and play where I don't have to where I don't have to paint stuff. But my Grey Knights are the only army I have right now that is painted to a good standard, high standard actually, but they're painted and I can play with them. Unfortunately, when GW did their whole Legends thing, they nuked a bunch of my armies. So, and I found out from Wyatt tonight that they didn't nuke my Space Wolves. I just kind of thought they did, but
yeah, I mean, like stuff like Blood Claws and Long Fangs have been
yeah,
trash for so long. It
for
doesn't
so
really matter.
long.
I mean, like the cool shit, still to play with.
Yeah, so I'll have to look at breaking those guys out again because I used to love my Space Wolves so much.
Thunderwolf
But yeah,
Cavalry.
so it's like, So I played at the local game store. They did a crusade. I ran my Grey Knights with that. That was a lot of fun playing as a crusade. I'd never really done that before. Um, and if you're gonna do that, you definitely need the Goonhammer um, administratum stuff to take care of the paperwork. It just made everything a million times easier. You don't need it, obviously. You can do it. You can do it by pen and paper, but it was so much easier on Goonhammer's site. The administratum stuff. It was amazing. But yeah, somebody just said like Grey Knights are still good. I think Grey Knights are really good right now. The downside to Grey Knights is you know how you could go to like a tournament and the first day you do really well and then you like drink all night and you come in and you're still like a little hungover and maybe drinking the next day. You cannot do that with Grey Knights right now. You will get rocked. You'll get punched in the face. Um, but I remember that at the end of fourth when I would rock like the Necron Phalanx with the monolith and the deceiver, and it was like autopilot. You could just this is gonna go that way, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Definitely, the game is a lot less autopilot than it used to be. A lot more
Yeah.
moving parts, a lot more advanced game. You know, so that brings me. So, how many games a month do you? How often do you play physically?
I play maybe a game every 2 months. If I count TTS, maybe a game a month.
Mhm. And
Um,
and so, have you been doing any hobbying, or is that just not?
no, no, I haven't had any time to do hobbying, and that's what's really hurt is that I had all these armies that were like painted, like Death Watch and stuff like that. And I'm curious to see what the agents of the Imperium do but if they get rid of Firstborn, which is what I'm expecting them to do, then my Death Watch army is pretty much gone.
Which is something we were when we were workshopping the after hours. That's something that we were talking about. Is like with this whole Legends move, we always pretend like we say it's not a big deal, guys. Like you can still play them; they're still illegal technically, just not in the GT pack. But we all know, even if you're playing with your boys at Gamers Haven on a Saturday, you're still playing a competitive goddamn game, and you're not,
Right.
and you're gonna play the current book.
Right.
So they're dead. They're gone. They don't exist.
They're gone.
Like
Yeah.
and because you are invested in this hobby, invested in this IP. You have your collection. You've put all the effort in it, but because you took a little bit of a break, because you have a full-time job, you have a home life, you're balancing everything. You've got a career path that you're working on the side. You got all this stuff. Well, you're like, well, good thing I already painted all my shit. And then kind of year
Right.
after year, this doesn't count. This doesn't count. This and the cumulative weight of it all is now.
Well, when they came down with that legending, and you guys will laugh about this, the army that I had just finished with that was Blood Ravens was land speeders, attack
The
bikes, and
list,
Thunderfire cannons.
the list,
Rip.
rip.
And it was just like, okay, out of this entire army, I can salvage like 3 units. Everything else was gone. So
Yeah.
I was just like,
The
ooh.
pace has never been more frenetic, right? Like, so it's definitely better than it was when we started playing. There were motherfuckers with the black and white 10-year-old Orc Codex and Dark
Or Dark
Eldar.
Eldar.
Yeah,
Dark Eldar, legendary.
bro. Like, so, bro, let's never go back to that. Like,
Somebody just wrote, I can't imagine being a Stormcast Eternal player. And I don't know why he wrote that, but I used to be a Stormcast. I have a whole Stormcast army.
I think they
which
just
I
legend them.
suspect he's like, they probably just squatted them.
I think they just legend them, and they have a bunch of new shit now.
Well, I guess I won't be playing AOS anytime soon.
See, and we mentioned this. It's like a part-time job to stay in the mix, right? And you what was the old term you said for game? What?
Oh,
Dad gamers?
Grognard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grognard. It just meant old. It came from the old soldiers in Napoleon's army. It means grumbler. Like the older soldiers that would be there kind of complaining about stuff. That's where the term comes from, but it got hijacked from people playing Napoleonics, tended to be older gamers.
Hmm.
And so the old guy at the game store is a grognard.
And what's happened though is a lot of games have started to figure out that if they want those people to play, they have to balance like entry point and competition, right? They have to balance, like they have to balance it. The problem, 40K always says they're going to do that shit, but it's basically impossible with a physical miniature based war game. Because
Right.
we have seasonal 40K now, bro. Like when Diablo does a season, then there's like months in between this, a month in between the season. I'm not out there painting new Diablo sprites on the computer.
Right, right.
I'm just like, cool, I'll do all this shit now. If you can't do that
But
with 40K.
It's kind of the same thing I've had to come to terms with in entertainment, to try to like meld the whole pop culture thing with 40K is and this is a shock to a lot of us Gen Xers, but we're not the target audience anymore.
There you go.
I was the target audience for 40K for a long time because I had disposable income and time. And right now, I still have disposable income demonstrated by the stupid collectibles I buy.
Yeah.
But I don't have time.
Time, money, and skill. They're all the same thing. And you typically have two of them like one of them for sure. You have one of them for sure. Like infinite of one of them. Right? And maybe you have a little of this of another one, but you never have all three. And so that's how America works, dude. Like that's everything. So,
like before, I would never consider commissioning an army. I didn't look down on it, but I was like, that's not for me. I'm a good enough painter.
Yeah, you had the skill. You had the skill and the time.
Right. Now I'm like, now
you have the skill and the money, but not the time.
I look at it constantly, especially if I have to do like 40, 50 like infantry troop choices or something. Like it's kind of a cheat code because I don't want to paint that many like nerds anyways. I'm just like, I want to paint the cool vehicles and the characters and stuff. But it's like, I don't want to paint 40 Hearthkin warriors, dude.
No, but what you can do, Mike, is you can go find somebody, an up and comer like on Instagram, and be like, and negotiate a good price and a good like a barely tabletop kind of standard. Basically, I've done that too in the past, where I'm treating it as my base coats, right? Like I'm basically paying this guy to do the bitch work. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like get all my base coats down, some clean wash execution to base them. Then I'll take them. I'm like, now I'm gonna do some highlights. I'm gonna do some of this, bro, because that's the fun part of painting. The fun when you're putting the finishing touches on, right? Yeah. So I'm just paying for the dopamine, dude. Wow, wow, wow.
And I'm coming to terms with other stuff that just sucks, and it comes with just getting older, I think. But there are projects that I've been holding on to for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna paint this to this standard. It's gonna be awesome, and it's still in the box. Some of these are shrink wrapped. I know.
I've seen the lab, dude.
I have a Polar Lights Enterprise, the motion picture Enterprise, right? Which is my favorite incarnation of the Starship Enterprise. I have a Polar Lights kit in 1/350th scale, still in shrink wrap, that I bought like 15 years ago. And it's like, I just have to go, you know what? It's probably going up on eBay. I'm never going to get to it. If I haven't gotten to it yet, I'm never going to get to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually a lesson when I do my course, right? And when we do project management, that's the 301. I'm like, all right, is there anything in your room that is a model that's still in the box? He's like, yep. I was like, still in the plastic and the box? He's like, yep. I was like,
yeah.
Why? He's like, well, I'm going to paint it one day. It's like, do you get anxiety sometimes thinking about how much stuff you have to paint? Like, fuck, I got to paint that. He's like, yeah. I was like, bro, you literally possess that inanimate object. Fuck that thing. Take that shit, look it dead in the eyes, right into the windows of its soul. I'll put you on Facebook Market right now, motherfucker, if you don't calm down.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't have any models at any given time that are not in my open projects.
Mm-hmm.
If that starts happening, I take stock and I just liquidate it. I'm like, no, I will not allow that to happen, because ultimately, like if I buy it, it's with the intent to finish it. The second it goes to the pile, wait, I need to get rid of this pile. You know?
I do that with a lot of stuff though. I buy role-playing games that I've never played just because I think I'm in love with the potential of something.
There is a dopamine fix there though. Like you're also a collector by nature, which many hobbyists are collectors. So many people don't leave the collecting stage of this hobby. failure to launch state, right? The fantasy state, which is a lot of dopamine in that state. There's
It is tons.
and who cares? It's a hobby, bro. You know, but we all know because we all participate in going to cons, going to conventions, from small road trader tournaments all the way to Adepticon, right? Nothing is more fun. It is literally all of the fucking good like brain chemicals of us fantasizing, buying, getting our fix. Then we get to go do art and craftsmanship and build something,
yeah.
and then we get to talk about it with each other and with and to a captive audience with each other, right? Because we're all interested and invested in this nonsense. And then we get to go to a place and physically put them on the table and fucking win games with them. Nothing compares hanging with your boys for the weekend. So it's like, you know, if you're still in the failure to launch state, still in the fantasy state, like I'm never like worried about it. I'm not like trying to pressure people, because I know that when you want in on this, you know, you'll take that first step, but it's getting harder and harder and harder because the dad gamer entry point in Warhammer 40K is that window is getting smaller and smaller, because now we're going into seasons. Now we're getting legends. Now we're getting new data sheets. Like, so by the time they get even remotely close to being prepared with their collection that they've collected and they pull it out of the box and they start painting it, bro, that's like, you know, bro, that's like at worst, that's last season's meta on unplayable garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's part of the reason I think why I like my Grey Knights is because I have all the units. There's not a lot of units in the decks. I have them all. It's not something I have to chase or build a new army. I can just literally, people go, oh, you know, the Dread Knights are the new hotness. I'm like, I have 6 of them.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? I can just, okay, I'll throw them in the rotation. They're already done. They're painted. They're magnetized. Everything's done with them. But it really hurt when they did that to my Space Marines, that I was just like, I had like 6,000 points of Space Marines. How many Primaris? Oh, maybe 500 points of Primaris.
Been there.
So it's like, okay, my Space Marines just are gone.
I think it's important to remember and acknowledge and possibly try to recapture the love of hobby, right? Because we get caught up in the task oriented element of hobby, right? Like, this is a task to be completed in order to get me to the table. And I think it's just a slight mental shift, and remembering those times where you're just chilling in the Beats Lab, cranking out fun ass display boards and having a blast. Like, and it does. And so that's where I've adopted the stance of like, I'm never going to be competitively ready in today's meta ever, because I'm always going to be just enough behind the current season or chapter that we're in, because I'm putting like 70% for the love of creation, thanks to Wyatt and shaming me during COVID to start painting my own shit again. But also, I just I stay active. I stay in the Facebook chats, in the D. I talk to everybody, and we do the podcast. I learn about new combos, and that combined with my veteran wiliness keeps me, you know, in having a winning record. You know what I mean? Instead of a losing record, which is better dopamine, right? Like,
right.
But playing and not winning all my games, still dopamine. But I'm able to kind of think outside the meta and enjoy it. Like, you know, you saw that Possessed I was painting the other day on the 8-year anniversary stream. I was telling people, it's like, Box of Chaos Possessed is easily the best single dollar per entertainment value in the entire.
It's super tight. I mean,
it's 5 models that are all beefier and more detailed than the average $35 character blister, and they have options too.
One of the things I've noticed among folks that I kind of came up with is a lot of guys that were not gamers are now getting into miniatures painting, but they don't get to play with theirs. Because I have friends that are like, oh, look at this. I painted this Crusader and it's awesome and it's really good. And I'll give them pointers on, hey, here's what you could do here. And you can do this on the cloak and here's a wash. And it's stuff that they've never heard of, right? That we're like.
Magic.
Yeah, it's magic. So, but I was just like, what game is that for? And I wasn't trying to like crack on him. I was just asking. And he goes, no, I just paint the miniature. And I was just like, that's almost an alien concept.
Yeah, that's I'd say that's half my students. I've graduated about 350 people through my course.
Nice.
It's about half my students. But ultimately, the thing I'm trying to sell everyone is you can have as much fun as I have.
Oh yeah.
That's what I sell. And it's like this mentality, this like way of thinking. It's like you were in that way of thinking for a long time. It's just that, you know, you had to take a back seat for, and also you, as you said, you put like a self-imposed walk away from it all because you're like, I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared anymore. And
yeah.
so going
Like
to
the
event,
last tournament I went to, I don't even remember which one it was.
we went to you went to Vegas teams. You brought your
Oh,
Grey
it was the
Knights.
Vegas teams. You're
Yeah,
right.
you got owned sixth, and you're like, I'm not ready for.
And I was
tournaments.
kind of done. I was like, I'm not playing tournaments anymore.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not prepared. Because the amount of preparedness required at minimum is 15 hours a week. I'm not saying you got to play 15 hours a week. I'm saying you have to be in the scene.
In the scene, knowing what the combos are, knowing all the other stuff. Oh, I see KR Quinn's asking about Titus. I did buy the Weta Titus, Lieutenant Titus, that huge statue. But I haven't gotten it yet. And to be very honest, this is how sad my crap is right now. I don't have anywhere to put it. So, so I bought this huge thing, and my wife was just like, it's not being displayed out of the basement. She just laid that right there. I was like, what, centerpiece right in the middle of the dining room table? It would look amazing. And she's like, no.
Haspil, if we were roommates, I'd let you put it on the dining room table.
That's right.
No doubt.
So I have to find somewhere to put it, and I do have an ideal spot, but to do that, I would have to sell my Han Solo and Carbonite.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
And that's
a hard pass, dude.
That's a hard, yeah.
I'm not ready to
I don't give a fuck about no Star Wars nonsense. But that Han Solo's tight as fuck.
Tight. So it could be that just Titus is gonna sit in a box. Because it's a mistake I'm trying to correct. When Weta first started coming out with their big collectibles, they put out, and when I say this, you guys are gonna laugh. They put out a Balrog statue that was massive for $300. And at the time, this is like 1999, I was just like, $300 for a friggin' Balrog statue? They're high. And then I saw it, but I saw it after it was already sold out. And it was like $2,000 on eBay. And I was like, no, I should have bought this. And so then when they came out with Titus, I was like, I'm not making this mistake twice in my life. Totally getting it.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. Like, because those are as a collector, those are collectible.
Yeah. And it's Weta, and they're super tight. Like when I went down to New Zealand this last time, we went to the Weta cave, and we saw like some of the stuff. Like they had a tree beard thing that was the size of a kid. Like it was huge. It was just massive, but the detail and everything on there was museum quality. It was amazing.
That's wild.
So good.
So, any closing remarks on the subject of, or maybe some future plans about Warhammer 40K? Do you have any intentions on trying to get back in the scene, or just going to visit?
I do have one, and this is like a bit of a tell on me. So I just got back from Italy, and we went to the Vatican, obviously, and went into St. Peter's Basilica. And this is a completely real world heretical thought. But when I walked in there, and I hate to say this because I'm a lapsed Catholic, so I should have just been like, wow, like, the St. Peter's Basilica, it's what actually crossed my mind was, this is what the Imperial Palace looks like. And so I was like, well, my next army's Custodes. For sure.
For sure.
Because I want to build that display board.
Nice.
Bro, that's ambitious.
Yeah.
I love it. A real world heretical thought.
I was just like, yeah, okay. I'm going to have to go to do a million Hail Marys for that one. But
bro.
But yeah,
I fucking love it. Well, let's wrap this one up. This casual episode of the Long War Podcast with Return of Mike Haspil. Let's get a classic Haspil closer.
somehow Palpatine returned.
It's great.
Well, you guys know the rest. Longwar.net. Give us money.